to this course on the World Domination Custom Cabinetry app. Today we'll continue looking at our internal page, which is a page that is specific to your team or team facing. The earlier pages we were looking at were facing the customer. And we'll continue looking at the dashboard of this team page. One of the primary objectives of this app is visibility, and the dashboard managed well provides awesome visibility to each and every team member, with an intended consequence being everyone knows what everyone else knows. A well-designed and managed dashboard can and should be the antidote to the never-ending confusion and chaos found in many manufacturing companies. So first, before we jump into the dashboard, let me show you how to add a new team member. So we've looked at this workspace navigation area, but haven't talked about the features of it because I really want to cover those in a Notion specific course. But we do need to know how to do this. First, I float over the team members, which is actually team members template. If I float off it, you can see that. And if I needed to, I could stretch this. You see that that is stretchable if I wanted to see that whole description. I can float over this item and then float over the three dots, and you see my options are to delete, duplicate, and more. So I click on it and I get these options. And so if I wanted to duplicate this page, that I'm using the word template here is different than the use of template anywhere else that we're talking about it. Basically, this page is the template and we're going to duplicate the page. And so we choose duplicate, and it does take some time to duplicate. And so now we have this second version of this. As soon as we duplicate it, we want to rename it. And so we're going to go ahead and name this. And you see that it appended the name at the very end here. We have a 1 in parentheses there. And we're going to change the name to example 2. So this would be somebody's name is what you would actually want there, is to have somebody's name listed. And ultimately what we want is everyone's name listed. When we come to this team page, we want to always see at the top of this list or at the top of this page this team member template, and then under that have every one of your employees listed by name. So that's how you create a new team member. And now let's jump into our dashboard. So let's look at our team member template page. We've already covered this daily tech triggers and the team report out. Now we want to kind of go down this list. And we touched on these things inside of the daily tech triggers, but now we want to spend a little bit more time of why your team members should come take a peek at this throughout their day. So the first item is this to-do list, and the objective is to encourage your team members to review, add, edit, and complete these daily. You may also find it useful for you or one of your leadership team members to add items to their list. So employees can add their own to-do items on this list, and you or a team member can add items to their list. And how it becomes part of their list is just simply the assignee. That's the objective here. So once you have your new team member added here, and I'm going to go ahead and use this example 2, and let's go ahead and rename this again. And let's name this Bobo Buckley. Now this team member has a name, and then one of the things we'll want to do when we're on this page is create filters for each of these items to possibly only show Bobo Buckley's items. And so to do that, we would actually come to the filter, and we see here that there is a filter with one rule. Now right now everything I've got in here is assigned to me, so I'm seeing all of that. But what I don't want to see necessarily is everybody's to-dos. Now if you're the owner, you might want to see everybody's to-dos. If you're a team lead, you might want to see everybody's to-dos here on your dashboard. But if you don't and you only want to see your to-dos, then you would come to the filter, and right now we're basically saying where done is not checked. So we only want to see the things that have not been completed and checked as done. But we also want to see the things, so we're going to add a filter. You see here, add a filter or rule. I clicked on the rule, and then I'm saying I want to add one. It's not a new group. It can be a continuation of this filter, so I can say I want to add a new rule. And we have the first option here is and or. Now if we say or, we may block everything out that doesn't fit our rule. Basically what we're wanting is this to stack. We don't want to see these, the things that are checked, but we also want to filter out all the things that are not for Bobo Buckley. So we would go to the assignee, and we would say and where the assignee contains, and then we would pick that name. So we're saying in this filter, where done is not checked and where the assignee contains Bobo Buckley, show us those things. So if we had Jim Smith and a dozen other employees listed here, as soon as we add this, it would only show the items that were assigned to Bob Buckley. You don't want to do that throughout your dashboard. Now this is a new feature here. You see there's an orange dot here, and you see there's a Save for Everyone button here. So basically what this is saying, I could do this as kind of like a temporary filter to just look at something for a few minutes and then reset it and get rid of what I just did. Or I can say, nope, I want to go ahead and save that for everyone or for the future. And so I am going to do that for this one because we created this new employee who I'm going to delete when we get done. So now we've filtered this list, and this is a secondary list. We've just grouped it, distinguished between business and personal. Again, we'll cover that in the Notion courses. But this list now will only show us things that are specific to the assignee, Bob Buckley. This is probably one of the few places I want to do that. As we go further down this list, we'll talk about that. In your daily tech triggers, that's automatically done for you because we're using the other type of template to create those daily tech triggers, so you don't have to do that. But one time when you create a new employee, we do want to do that for the to-do list. Now the second area here, the elicitations, you may or may not want these to show for every team member. One of the advantages to them showing for every team member is maybe a team member that's not really responsible for, or even this solicitation within their sphere of influence, may find an opportunity to answer that question or know the answer to that question. So for these elicitations, you probably don't want these in some of your production guys' dashboards. So totally up to you, but if you want to get rid of them, you select like you would in a Word document or something like that, drag across it, make sure everything is kind of this bluish green thing. Once it is, if I wanted to get rid of the elicitations for Bob Buckley, I would just get everything highlighted and then click on the 6 dots and delete. I haven't deleted the elicitations, I've just deleted the view out of Bob Buckley's dashboard. Let's say Bob Buckley also doesn't need to see the sales pipeline. So the sales pipeline is specific to people that are responsible for trying to move someone from, a builder or remodeler or even an individual that you want to sell cabinets to. So initially, if they don't know you exist, they would be a suspect. Once they know you exist, they're a prospect. And once you understand and know for certain that they actually need cabinetry, not necessarily that they're going to buy cabinets from you, but they need it, then they would become qualified. And then ultimately, if someone becomes disqualified, we've hidden the people we've moved into that. They're disqualified. You can see here these are the hidden groups. And we've also hidden customers because we don't want to have to scroll through all the people that we have as customers. So in this particular version, we have 12 customers that we could go look at, but right now we've hidden them intentionally so that we can just see this short list of the people that we're trying to target to sell to. So again, if I don't want sales pipeline to show in Bob Buckley's, let's say he's the finished guy, then we would just come in here and delete that. And so he wouldn't see that anymore. My personal opinion is everyone needs to see the callbacks, everyone needs to see the punch list. At some point in time, almost everyone in your plant may or may not have some part to play in resolving a callback and resolving a punch list. For callbacks, the objective is to not have any. I think that would be everybody's objective, is to not have any. That you catch your own issues utilizing the punch list, but this section is here to keep them top of mind for you and your team so that you don't miss them, they don't fall through the cracks, and that you manage them well. So communicating to your team that when a client finds an issue, they naturally assume that there are other things your company missed as well. So one thing leads to a string of other things. We all know that to be the case and to be true. So scrutiny is a skill, thus it can and should be developed. We will dive a little deeper into callbacks when we cover the callbacks page. And now let's take a look at punch lists. So on our punch list, we would encourage our team members to do this better than anyone, or any of our competitors anyway. To serve your customers well, if the customer can spot an issue, you should have been able to spot the issue. Find those issues. Again, as we said with callbacks, scrutiny is a skill, thus it can and should be developed. We will dive a little deeper into the punch list when we cover the punch list page. So now let's touch on the selections. Again, maybe this team member doesn't need to see this, but if they do, you leave it, and if they don't, you would remove it. This does not need to be filtered in any way. They don't need to see some of the jobs, typically anyway. You could if you needed to, but we want to see all of the active jobs. And so we've talked about what makes a job active versus pending versus archived in previous videos, so we won't cover that. But we want the selections to be here, kind of letting everybody know, hey, we're still lacking this edge band selection for this Chapman 114. We're basically looking for red things. We're also lacking the drawer and door hardware selection for this last item, so this test kitchen, something I've created during this course. So the objective being to try to find and get answers to anything that's red every day. somebody should be primarily responsible for this, but everybody should be working toward getting everything green in this view or this portal of selections. And this should always have listed all of the active jobs. Then our production schedule. The objective of the production schedule is visibility, and the visibility this provides is the closest thing to a scoreboard that I'm aware of. The production schedule allows your team to plan your production well and allows your team members to see what's coming their way and where things are stuck. So here we're looking at someone's actual version, Kingdom Custom Cabinetry's version, and we can see in this production schedule several things. So this is our sequence of events. Now you can see I'm kind of scrolled over here to the middle, but I'm just going to kind of focus on this area. But we start all the way with ballpark estimate on the far left, and we come across here and we have design, checked field measurements, proposal, engineering, material acquisition, waiting on materials. And a couple of the points we want to look at is, number one, that each one of these is assigned to someone. You see someone's name and the little icon next to it. And so to do that, you would just click on the card and assign it to someone, the assignee. In my opinion, this is the trigger that tells someone when to do something. So in this case, these are all filled in, so we'll look back at our other ones to actually see how we would go about doing that. But I wanted to point that out here, that each one of these cards has an assignee. So now let's jump back over into our copy and let me show you fairly quickly what happens when we assign these things. To show you how this works, I'm going to show you how you would invite your team members in to your version of the app. And we want to be careful about this. So this is our top level page here, World Domination Custom Cabinetry version 004, and then this is that external piece that is kind of customer facing, but your team members still need to be able to see that. Most of them do anyway. There's parts and pieces of that they'll need to be able to see. And then they'll need to see this piece of it, this internal, that's specific to them, but you probably will not invite very many, if any, other employees into the admin portion. So we don't want to invite people into this top level, because if we invite them into this top page, they'll see all the pages. And so everybody in your plant would see the admin page where maybe labor rates and things like that you didn't necessarily want to disclose. So we've got these two pages that we do want to invite people into. So I'm going to invite myself in to this page, and I'm going to invite a different user. It's still me, but you can see here, well, I actually have invited myself in here. So there's that second account called Robert Buckley has been invited into that page, but I have not been invited into this page yet. So we'll go here to share, and again we want to make sure we're on the page. This is that internal page, and go up here to share, and it's not shared with anyone right now because you don't see any of those icons. And there's a couple things you need to do depending on how you're going to go about this, but here is where we would actually invite people in. And what we don't see here is that Robert Buckley listed, but we should be able to search, and there it is. So you won't necessarily see everybody that has a Notion account until you actually search for them. And so I want to invite Robert Buckley in as a guest. And so then once you have the name of the person you searched for here, you have to choose what rights they'll have. And so here we have full access, can edit, can comment, and can view. So this is more of the customer level that they can only view, and even some customers, a builder or remodeler you work for frequently, you may want to give them this can edit option. Typically we don't want to give people that are not actually changing the app itself full access. We just want to give them the ability to edit fields. So that's what I'm going to give Robert Buckley, and then you would say invite. And so now Robert Buckley is invited into this page. Then if we go back to our production schedule, come to this item, we will see that under this assignee field now, we have the option to invite Robert Buckley in. And now very quickly, I want to show you a couple things. So I'm going to click out of this field, and I am going to open my email app and show you here. So here's an email that came to me, and so this email was sent to Robert Buckley at a different email address. Is basically saying you have been invited to World Domination Custom Cabinetry internal page version 04 by Bob O'Buckley. So Robert Buckley was invited by Bob O'Buckley. And if I click on this link right now, it will open up a new tab in the browser and actually take me to that page. So there's no confusion about where you've been invited to. That's the page you've been invited to. So I'm viewing this from Bobo's Notion. Now I'm going to take one more step just to kind of show you what's going on here. And I am going to go to Notion Notion, and I'm in a different browser altogether, and so you can see now that being in this browser, I am logged in, the workspace is logged into Robert Buckley, and you also see that I have 2 notifications. These notifications are from Bobo, or in Bobo's workspace. So I need to go to, click here, and go to Bobo's workspace. So Bobo invited me into this thing. You will be inviting your employees into them. They'll need to create an account, but once they do, they'll spend most of their time in your cabinet company's name kind of thing, like Kingdom. And then here I have these 2 updates. And there's a lot of other ones in here, but basically one of them is saying I've been invited into that page. And then the second one is saying I have been made responsible for this test 1 kitchen. So now if we click on that, it actually takes me to that page. So these updates are really nice that they're going to get that. And so that becomes the triggers when you assign this to Robert Buckley to do the ballpark estimate. Then he gets a notification in Notion telling him that he's been assigned this. And so that's how you pass this along from member to member to member. So when we move this, when Robert Buckley's done, he moves this into selections, and let's just say that instead of Robert being responsible, Bobo is responsible. And then we take Robert out, and then Bobo will get a notification saying you were mentioned on this card, and now you're responsible for getting whatever you're supposed to get done. Then when Bobo gets done doing this, he moves it to here, and he jumps in, and he changes the assignee to whoever the next person is. And you'll have your whole team here to choose from. And if more than one person, if Bobo and Robert are responsible for this, now both of them will get a notification saying you were mentioned in this test 1 kitchen. So that's how the triggers that tell your team members what to do work. They'll actually get notifications within the app itself telling them that they were mentioned in something, and then they will be able to jump in and do their part of it and then move it along to the next person. Now let's scroll down to our delivery schedule. And for the delivery schedule, visibility is valuable here as well. And everyone on your team needs to know when the project is supposed to be delivered. This is a second aspect of that scoreboard I mentioned earlier. There is a reason that you will see something like this on a whiteboard in the majority of cabinet companies you visit throughout our nation. It works, especially if it's managed well. This digital version is now available to everyone 24/7 from a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer, rather than having to be isolated to a conference room or break room or a door in your plant or something like that. In other words, they don't have to be at your plant to know what's supposed to be delivered on what date. And then in addition to having that whiteboard that says that Chapman 114 is supposed to be delivered and start installation on July 6th, we also have this additional information about this, but we can also go in and look at a lot more information. So at a glance, we can see that the project status, the project itself, the house where the cabinets are going to be installed is ready, that the room we're going to be installing is the kitchen, and the room status. Of course, this has not been kept up to date. It says it's in hardware. Well, we're here on the 12th, so let's pretend this is on the 28th and that it's in hardware. And then the estimated cabinet quantity, when we started estimating the process, we thought there would be 21 cabinets, but in reality, once we designed, engineered, and ran through all of our processes, there were actually 19 cabinets, and the room price is $27,050. And that we billed this customer, this says that it was done in July of 2021, but we're in 2022 now, and it just hasn't been changed because this is just a sample company. So at a glance, you see all this information for every one of the jobs that are listed here, so that you can kind of say, yes, I can install 21 cabinets over 2 in some portion of a day, and then here I've got 14 cabinets to install in 1 in some portion of a day. So that at a glance information is awesome to have, but if you need more information, obviously you can come into the room, and there's a lot more here as far as payments, just all kinds of information available at a glance. On a tablet, on a phone, be able to see that, and everybody knows what everybody knows. Nobody can claim ignorance. Everybody knows everything about this project that can be known. So, in conclusion, that covers everything I wanted to touch on about this team page in the second of 2 sessions. Up next, we're going to be looking at the procedures page. Thanks for watching.